Welcome to another episode of People Pod. So I want you to imagine, just for a second, possessing this breathtaking four-octave vocal range.
Like a truly generational talent.
Right, exactly. The kind of raw talent that immediately draws comparisons to legends. People like Etta James or, Whitney Houston.
Yeah, heavy hitters.
Totally. But when you finally step out into the spotlight, the music industry takes one look at you and decides they only want one thing, a safely packaged bubblegum teen pop idol.
Basically, they put you in this glittering, incredibly lucrative golden cage.
Yeah, that is exactly what it was. So how do you break out of a cage like that? Well, you blow it up.
Which brings us to the topic of today's deep dive. We are exploring the tension between what the world expects you to be and, who you actually are. We're looking at the life and career of Christina Aguilera.
The voice of a generation.
Right. She was this defining pop star of the 2000s. But looking at our sources, the articles, the retrospective reviews, the industry interviews, the real story, the one hiding behind the platinum records and the tabloid headlines, is her relentless fight for creative control.
And it was a highly controversial fight, too.
Oh.
Going through all the source material we have for this deep dive, it's clear this isn't just a story about a few hit songs on the radio.
No, not at all.
Our mission today is to unpack how her career became this blueprint, like the modern blueprint for how female artists navigate the industry, how they weaponize reinvention to reclaim their image, and ultimately, how they own their art.
Yeah.
I honestly look at her early career as this brilliant Trojan horse. She used this manufactured mid-90s pop image to basically sneak a massive soul voice right into the mainstream.
That's a really good way to put it. And to understand why she fought so fiercely for that control later on, we really have to look at the mechanics of how little control she had at the beginning.
Right, the early days.
Yeah, so our sources note she was born in 1980 in New York. Her father was an Ecuadorian immigrant and a U.S. Army sergeant, and her mother was a violinist and a Spanish translator.
So there was music in the family early on.
There was, but because of her dad's military service, the family moved constantly. We're talking New Jersey, Texas. They even lived in Japan for a few years. But fundamentally, according to the biographical sources, it was a very unstable and abusive household.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, her father was physically and emotionally abusive.
And growing up in that kind of environment, a child is naturally going to look for an escape hatch. Any way out, right?
Exactly. And for her, that escape was music. It wasn't just like a fun hobby. It was a survival mechanism.
Right.
When her parents finally divorced in 1987, her mother relocated Christina and her younger sister to her grandmother's house. This was in a suburb of Pittsburgh.
And that move was kind of a massive turning point for her musically, wasn't it?
It was huge. That physical relocation provided a complete musical awakening, all because of her grandmother's record collection. The sources highlight that her grandmother owned this staggering collection of soul and blues records. Etta James, Billie Holiday, Otis Redding.
Heavy, heavy blues.
Yeah. For a young girl processing that amount of childhood trauma, the blues offered something that, pop music just couldn't. It was a vehicle for raw, unfiltered pain.
So she starts mimicking these legendary artists.
Right. She practiced in public, entered local talent shows, and the locals in Pittsburgh actually started calling her the little girl with a big voice.
Which is so fitting. The sources mentioned she was literally singing the national anthem for the Pittsburgh Steelers and Penguins before she was even a teenager.
It's wild to think about.
But this is where we hit that massive contradiction at the center of her origin story. Her musical foundation is deeply rooted in this gritty, painful soul music, but her very first big break in the entertainment industry was on the most pristine, sanitized platform imaginable.
No, the Disney variety show.
Exactly. In 1993, she joins the all-new Mickey Mouse Club, and she's in this cast with future absolute megastars. Ryan Gosling, Britney Spears, Justin Timberlake.
Right, it's crazy who came out of that one show. But that duality, the gritty soul singer trapped inside a polished pop star environment, that becomes the driving force of her entire career.
Yeah.
Because the Mickey Mouse Club was essentially this intense, televised boot camp for child entertainers. It taught them how to hit their mark, smile for the camera, deliver flawless, family-friendly performances.
But then the show ends in 1994.
Right. And she has to figure out how to transition from a child TV star to an actual recording artist.
Yeah.
And in the music industry of the late 90s, the only way to do that was to play a very specific game.
She had to hustle.
Yeah.
She really did.
Yeah.
Our sources show she flew to Japan Japan to record a duet with a local pop star. She even traveled all the way to Romania to compete in a massive singing contest at the Golden Stag Festival.
Talk about paying your dues.
Seriously. She was sending out demo tapes relentlessly, including this cover of Whitney Houston's Run to You. And the real turning point finally arrives in 1998.
The Mulan track.
Yes. She lands the theme song Reflection for Disney's animated film Mulan.
And that specific vocal performance is what caught the ear of Ron Fair, an executive at RCA Records. The sources point out that he heard Reflection and famously declared she had the pipes to be the next Barbra Streisand or Celine Dion.
High praise.
Very high. RCA signed her immediately. But, the conflict began pretty much the moment the ink dried on the contract.
That's because she wanted to do R&B.
Exactly. Aguilera wanted to make material inspired by R&B and soul, the music that actually raised her. But RCA looked at the late 1990s landscape, which was being completely dominated by acts like the Backstreet Boys and Britney Spears, and they basically dictated that she would sing teen pop.
And, strictly from a financial perspective, the label wasn't wrong. Her 1999 self-titled debut album was an absolute global phenomenon.
Oh, it was massive. It sold over 10 million copies in its first year alone. She dropped 3 Billboard Hot 100 #1 hits. You had Genie in a Bottle, What a Girl Wants, and Come On Over, Baby.
Iconic tracks.
Totally. And then she shocked the industry by beating out all these massive established acts to win the Grammy for Best New Artist. And simultaneously, she honored her Latin roots.
Right, with Mi Reflejo.
Yeah, releasing that Spanish language album in 2000. It dominated the Latin charts for 19 weeks and won a Latin Grammy.
So it was just this explosion of commercial success. She was generating millions of dollars for RCA. But internally, the walls of that golden cage we talked about were closing in fast.
Okay, I have to push back here, though. Let's put ourselves in the shoes of a 19-year-old at that time. You have massive global fame. You're winning Grammys. You are literally a millionaire, and your songs are on every radio station on the planet.
I'm struggling to see the cage here. Wasn't she getting exactly what she wanted?
It looks that way from the outside, sure, but we have to look at the actual mechanics of a major label record contract in the 1990s.
Okay, walk me through it. As a teen pop star back then, you do not own your master recordings. You do not choose your singles. You often don't even write your own lyrics. There is a massive machine of executives, managers, and PR consultants dictating what you wear, how you style your hair, what you say in interviews, and how you behave.
So you're basically a product.
Exactly. And success is only fulfilling if it aligns with your authentic self. She was a blues and soul singer being heavily, forcefully marketed as a bubblegum pop princess.
Yeah, the culture was simultaneously consuming her and criticizing her for it.
Right. Even within that pristine image, the sources note she faced severe conservative backlash. Established celebrities publicly criticized her, claiming the lyrics to Genie in a Bottle were too provocative for a teen idol.
Oh, I remember reading that Radio Disney actually forced her to record and release a censored version of the song.
Yeah, they did. So she was being controlled, commodified, and judged all at once.
She was making all the money, but she didn't own herself.
Exactly.
And this is where we get to the control demolition. Feeling entirely trapped, she realized you can't just, pivot slightly away from a teen idol persona. You have to destroy it completely.
You have to blow it up.
Right. So she fires her manager, Steve Kurtz. And according to the legal documents in our sources, this wasn't just a simple phone call. She filed a lawsuit against him with the California Labor Commission.
Yeah, she cited improper and undue influence over her professional activities.
She legally severed ties, hired new management, and demanded total executive control over her next project.
And that project became her 2002 album, Stripped. This is where she co-wrote the track, she dictated the creative direction, everything. And to visually represent this new era, she unleashed an alter ego. XtinaThe.
Yeah.
The physical transformation was this drastic, deliberate pivot away from the blonde girl next door aesthetic. She dyed her hair black, got visible body piercings, and embraced a highly provocative, totally unapologetic image.
And then she drops the lead single, Dirty. And the cultural shockwave was just massive. The music video is directed by David LaChapelle, and it depicted an underground boxing ring and overtly sexual fetishes.
Which, predictably, caused a meltdown.
Total meltdown. Moralists and conservative organizations completely lost it. They protested. They tried to get it banned on MTV. Our sources highlight that it was literally banned on Thai television.
Which brings up the obvious question, why do it? why alienate such a massive portion of the fan base that made you famous in the first place?
Right.
The answer is that she needed to prove she wasn't a puppet. She had to establish definitively that she was steering the ship, even if it meant steering it directly into a storm.
That's a great point.
And the true genius of the Stripped album lies in its internal contrast. Because the exact same album that shocked the world with Dirty also featured the song Beautiful.
Oh, Beautiful is an absolute masterpiece. It was written by Linda Perry, and it's this legendary Grammy-winning ballad about embracing inner beauty and fighting through insecurity. The sources show it became this massive global LGBTQ plus anthem for self-acceptance.
Right. And releasing Beautiful right on the heels of Dirty proved she could provoke the public and dominate the tabloids while simultaneously delivering an undeniable, emotionally complex vocal performance.
She was showing the world that women contain multitudes.
Exactly. You can be sexual, you can be messy, and you can be deeply vulnerable and profoundly talented all at the exact same time. And she punctuated this entire era of rebellion at the 2003 MTV Video Music Awards.
Oh, the iconic kiss.
Yep.
She and Britney Spears opened the show singing Like a Virgin, and then they were joined on stage by Madonna. And the kiss they shared became one of the most famous moments in television history.
It was huge.
It felt like a literal passing of the torch from Madonna, the ultimate pop provocateur, straight to Aguilera.
It really did. It solidified her status as a cultural force who just wasn't afraid of the heat. But, you know, you can't just be the rebel forever.
Sure.
Once the cage is destroyed, the next challenge is proving your longevity. You can't rely on shock value alone. You have to deepen your artistry and prove you have staying power. So she had to become a chameleon.
Which brings us to her 2006 album, Back to Basics. She pivots entirely away from the gritty urban pop of the Stripped era. She adopts this old Hollywood burlesque-inspired aesthetic.
Right, citing Marlene Dietrich, Marilyn Monroe, and Greta Garbo as visual inspirations.
She even created a new alter ego, Baby Jane. And musically, the sources agree this was a huge gamble. She mixed 1920s, 30s, and 40s jazz, blues, and soul with modern, hard-hitting hip-hop beats.
But the gamble paid off. The album debuted at #1 and produced hits like Ain't No Other Man and Candyman. But more importantly, this era brought the focus entirely back to her vocal technique.
Which is incredible.
As an instrument, her voice is extraordinary. She's a 4-octave soprano, highly capable in the whistle register, but she is perhaps most famous for her mastery of a technique called melisma.
Let's explain how that actually works, just for our listeners.
Yeah.
Because people hear it all the time on the radio, but might not know the actual term for it.
Sure. Melisma is the technique of singing a single syllable of text while moving fluidly between several different notes in rapid succession.
Like a vocal run.
Exactly, a vocal run. It requires immense diaphragmatic support and really intricate control of the vocal folds. It's deeply rooted in gospel music, and it's the hallmark technique you hear in vocalists like Whitney Houston and Mariah Carey.
But the critics weren't always kind about her use of it, right? Our sources include critiques from places like HuffPost, where journalists accused her of oversouling.
Yeah, that term got thrown around a lot.
The critique was that she didn't know when to dial it back, that she was using gratuitous vocal runs that kind of overshadowed the actual melody of the song. But I want to pose a question about that based on the source material.
Right.
Think about a rock band. Do male artists who play these flashy 5-minute, entirely self-indulgent guitar solos get the same level of critique as a female vocalist who pushes the biological limits of her instrument?
That's a fascinating point, and our sources do point out a well-documented double standard in how the music industry critiques female vocalists versus male instrumentalists.
Right.
A male guitarist shredding for 5 minutes is hailed as a virtuoso, while a female singer executing complex vocal runs is often told she's doing too much.
Exactly.
Now, her style certainly isn't for everyone, and to be fair to the critics, some legitimately argued her tone could become nasal when she pushed too hard. But her raw power forces the listener to pay attention. She refuses to shrink herself or simplify her talent just to make a song easier to digest.
And by refusing to hold back, she really paved the way for future generations of vocalists to be unapologetic about their own power.
Absolutely. And her ability to adapt and, ignore those critics kept her on the charts across multiple decades. In the 2010s, she evolved yet again.
Right. She starred alongside Cher in the 2010 movie Burlesque.
Which is a cult classic now.
Oh, for sure. And that same year, she released Bionic, which was this futuristic, heavily electronic album. The sources show it received very mixed reviews at the time of release, but over the years, it's also become a massive cult favorite. People look back and realize the production was actually years ahead of the electronic pop trend.
She also made a very strategic pivot into television during this time. She became one of the original foundational coaches on NBC's reality singing competition, The Voice.
That was a smart move.
It really was. It shifted her public persona from this fiercely competitive pop star to an experienced, nurturing mentor for a whole new generation of singers.
And she proved her musical staying power yet again in 2011 by collaborating with Maroon 5 on the track Moves Like Jagger.
That song was inescapable.
It dominated global radio. It made history. With that #1 hit, the chart records show Aguilera became only the 4th woman in history to top the Billboard Hot 100 in 3 consecutive decades, the 90s, the 2000s, and the 2010s.
That's an incredible achievement.
But up to this point, we've talked primarily about the albums, the vocal mechanics, and the image shifts. To really get the full picture from our sources, we need to look at the woman behind the voice.
Right.
Her life experiences directly fueled her offstage identity and her activism, and the source material highlights how deeply connected the two really are.
Yeah, her philanthropic work is intrinsically tied to her past. Remembering the trauma of growing up with an abusive father, she hasn't just offered, empty platitudes about domestic violence. Our sources show she has actively funded solutions.
Like what?
Well, in 2003, she donated over $200,000 to a domestic violence shelter in Pittsburgh, the very city where she found refuge as a child.
Oh, wow.
And over the years, she has starred in awareness campaigns and even earmarked proceeds from her Las Vegas residency to directly help women and children escaping dangerous situations.
It's incredibly full circle. The girl who used music to escape a violent home ended up using her massive global platform to help others escape their own dangerous reality.
It is the literal definition of turning pain into purpose. And her advocacy extended far beyond domestic violence, too. The sources note that in 2009, she took on a massive role as a global spokesperson for the UN's World Food Program.
And she didn't just lend her name to the cause, right?
No, she traveled to Ecuador, Guatemala, Haiti, and Rwanda to see the relief efforts firsthand. By 2013, reports indicated she had helped raise over $148 million for hunger relief.
That is staggering.
It is. Hillary Clinton actually honored her at the White House with the George McGovern Leadership Award for that specific work.
And looking at the sources, she also continued to honor her heritage. In 2022, she released a multi-part Spanish album simply titled Aguilera.
Right.
It paid tribute to different genres of Latin music and won her yet another Latin Grammy, which just proves that her connection to her roots remained a constant throughout her entire career. Plus, her advocacy for the LGBTQ+ community has been relentless since the early 2000s. She raised money for HIV/AIDS research, publicly spoke out against anti-gay marriage laws, and in 2016, she dedicated her song Change to the victims of the Orlando nightclub shooting, raising proceeds for their families.
And the vital thing to understand about her activism, based on all the material we've reviewed, is that it has never been a PR stunt.
Right.
In the music industry, philanthropy is often used to, rehabilitate a damaged image. But for Aguilera, it appears to be a direct reflection of her core beliefs. Her career proves that knowledge, immense talent, and a massive platform are most valuable when they are applied to helping others and standing up for marginalized communities.
She didn't just sing the lyrics to Beautiful. She lived the message of that song by giving a voice to people who felt voiceless.
Exactly.
Which brings us right back to the tension we introduced at the very start of our deep dive. Christina Aguilera had every opportunity to coast. She could have stayed in that golden cage. She could have remained a safely packaged pop star, sang the radio-friendly hits, and made millions of dollars without ever breaking a sweat or taking a single creative risk.
But she chose the difficult, heavily criticized, and often incredibly lonely path of constant reinvention. She fought her record label, she sued her management, and she took the brunt of the heat from a relentless tabloid press.
Because she demanded total creative control.
Right. She refused to just sing the song she was handed. She demanded to direct the narrative of her own life.
It's a legacy built on absolute defiance. And I want to leave you, our listener, with this thought to mull over. We live in an era now where every major pop star meticulously controls their eras.
Yeah, we completely expect it now.
Right. We expect artists to change their sound, their fashion, and their core message with every single album cycle. It's standard practice. But you have to ask yourself, would today's artists have the freedom to constantly reinvent themselves, to be overtly political, to be unapologetically sexual, and to demand creative control from their labels. If Christina Aguilera hadn't taken all the heat for doing it first over 20 years ago, she broke the mold so others could build their own. Thanks for listening to BPL Pod. Keep tuning in for more stories worth knowing.